Hey guys, it's Roscoe on the Space Catch. Today I want to talk about Pluto, which we've just had the flyby of, and it's only just now giving up its secrets. It's been 85 years since it's been discovered, and up until these last few weeks and months it was just pixels of light. You couldn't make out anything. However, now that we've seen what it looks like, it looks to be very different from all of the planets of the classical solar system, shall we say. Although perhaps it is going to be indicative of what all those Kuiper Belt objects are going to look like. Now, I should just say, me and Mike from the Mike and D show had made some predictions a couple of years ago as to what we could expect to find on Pluto once we got there. So I said there's going to be more moons of Pluto. So far, no word on that. Could there be volcanoes of some kind on Pluto and Charon? We don't know, but some of the activity that's going on, it's possible. Also, I thought maybe there's going to be a subsurface ocean. Still waiting to hear about that. Could there have been rings around Pluto? Because they thought those asteroids, the smaller moons, are orbiting. Anything that hits that, because of the gravity so low, the dust or whatever would just go into orbit around it. No word yet on rings of Pluto, but then again, we haven't had the results back from that occultation measurement they were going to be doing, so we'll have to wait and see. Have to say it's looking more like there's not going to be any, unfortunately, but well, hey. I also thought that by the time we discovered Pluto, there would be at least 1,150 exoplanets discovered. Well, that has been met. At least there's currently 1,933 of them on my exoplanet app on my iPad. So at least that one's been met. And I also thought that, you know how there's the Dawn probe at Ceres, that maybe it would have discovered a moon of that world. Nothing so far. It doesn't look like it has. So, the best views we're getting of Pluto is of the heart side. The little planet with the big heart, as they're calling. Although, I don't know if you've seen those images of Pluto the dog superimposed onto the heart. Once you see it, it can't be unseen, and it does very much look like Pluto on Pluto. However, the heart region, it's been named after Clyde Tombaugh, the discoverer of Pluto, obviously, so it's now called Tombaugh Regio. And in the press conference on Friday, they discovered that that heart, the centre of it is made up of carbon monoxide ice. So they don't know where that is coming from. That area, by the way, is now called Sputnik Regio. They're naming the various regions on Pluto and Charon after explorers in fact and fiction, and also gods of the underworld in fact and fiction, because they've run out of most of the real ones. When I say real, I mean the ones that are known. So they're going now into these fictional areas, and it's coming up with some pretty good names for it as well, but we'll get onto that later. So, that carbon monoxide ice, has it been deposited there by snows, perhaps? Or is it upwelling from below? Who knows? It's got them all stumped so far. I mean, every single image that they're receiving, it just raises more questions, which is brilliant. We love more questions. Now, at the base of the heart, Tombaugh Regio, that was where we saw the very first real close-up image of Pluto's surface, and it had everyone stumped. There's these mountains that are about 3 kilometres high. Because of the gravity on Pluto, it can only be made out of water ice. The other ices, methane, nitrogen ice, whatever, it's too soft. It wouldn't be able to sustain that much weight, even in that lower gravity. So, loads of water ice on there. I wonder, just, they could call that the Mountains of Madness, that area. Again, after H.P. Lovecraft, because one of the areas on Pluto has been named after Cthulhu, obviously. I wonder. But also in that picture, there were no visible impact craters. Flat surface, so other than the mountains. So that means that surface is, geologically speaking, it's very young. They say 100 million years or less. Charon is the same, but we'll also get onto that separately. So something is changing that surface, kind of like, you know, Europa. It's got that smooth surface, though in its instance, obviously the gravity of Jupiter and the internal ocean is what plays a role. But similar sorts of principles, I guess. Now, as I mentioned, names are starting to emerge for areas on Pluto and Charon. The heart of sea now, Tomba Regio. Now, the whale, as it was known, the dark area beneath and to the west of the heart, that is now being called Cthulhu Regio, as I briefly mentioned, after H.P. Lovecraft's god of the dark, the denizens of the deep, or whatever they were. And no doubt, you know, there was those spots that were discovered on the other side of Pluto from further away. Perhaps they will also end up getting H.P. Lovecraft type of names. And you know how there was that giant hexagon-looking structure on that far side of Pluto? Well, maybe that could be known as the Eye of Sauron. It's just my tuppence anyway. Speaking of Sauron and all things like that, the moon Charon now has an area called Mordor. It's that dark patch around the North Pole in the Northern Hemisphere. That's another fascinating world. Again, it's very different from Pluto itself. Different composition, different colour, all of that. There's a giant canyon, which when you see that image of Charon like that, it's right at the edge. And you can see through the canyon, through into space. It must be like 4 to 6 kilometres deep. I wonder what that's going to get named after. We should start thinking of names to submit to the IAU, I suppose. There's also faults and cliffs that look like they stretch all around the equator. In fact, it almost looks like it's 2 bits joined together. That southern hemisphere, by the way, is very smooth. Again, very few impact craters, although they can't fully count until they've got the real close-up shots of it, which we haven't been received back on Earth yet. Again, new surface, who knows what's going on there. The New Horizons team has just been stumped in a pleasant way every single time they get a new photo. Still no word on if Charon has an atmosphere, but they are measuring the rate of escape of the Pluto atmosphere. It's all very technical, and I don't know that it makes much sense to me, to be honest. But what they have found out is probably one of the main things is you don't need a giant planet like, say, Jupiter or Neptune or whatever to drive geological process and internal heating on a planet. That is big news. They didn't know that before. So how many other of those Kuiper Belt objects out there are actually still going to be active, geologically speaking? Could be all of them. That would be brilliant, wouldn't it? All those worlds with fascinating landscapes to look at. I think it's time we sent out a swarm of light sail CubeSats out towards Eris and Sedna and Haumea and Makemake and all the others. Not to mention my favourite little world, Charon as well. Anyway, so that's where we are with Pluto. Obviously, it was a very brief flyby. It's already many millions of kilometres past it. Loads more data to come, obviously. They say it's going to be 16 months, so October 2016, I think, is when the last of the data will come down. Obviously, there's the plans for a flyby of another Kuiper Belt object. After that, it's not going to be flying past a world, it's going to be just a big asteroid. That'll still be exciting, but don't get your hopes up for seeing some amazing little planet. Anyway, guys, I just thought I'd bring you up to date with what happened with the Pluto flyby. It's absolutely fantastic, the pictures we've been getting. I'm really excited. As you know from, I think, my second video that I did, I've been waiting eagerly for this for a very long time. Please subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed this content. Leave me a comment or a suggestion for an upcoming topic you'd like to see discussed. Oh, why don't you hit that like button?